Welcome to the late 90s, a rich pop culture sitcom landscape featuring the NBC home run hitters that had established themselves earlier in the decade, such as Seinfeld, Friends, and Frasier. And of course, don't forget all the newer up-and-coming single base hitters, Just Shoot Me, That 70s Show, Third Rock from the Sun. And obviously, this list wouldn't be complete without all the mid to late 90s strikeouts, Boston Common, Brotherly Love, Teen Angel, etc. Of course, the list of 90s sitcoms isn't complete with the only of these shows that is still in production today. Additionally, the show may also be regarded as not only the best sitcom of all time, but also arguably maybe the greatest television show in general, Law and Order. Just kidding. Of course, I'm talking about The Simpsons. As we know, The Simpsons debuted on Fox in 1989 after a successful series of shorts debuted on The Tracy Ullman Show. I know what you're asking, but Yeti of the Hill, your name implies that we're not here to listen to you, arbitrary internet man, talk about The Simpsons. We're here to listen to you talk about King of the Hill. My response to that? Don't hassle the process. I'm driving the car, and I want to take some detours first. An interesting aspect to The Simpsons is that it made high-end network types aware that adult-themed animation shows can be largely successful and generate huge profit. We maybe take The Simpsons for granted now. Before them, the last successful animated show geared towards adults was called Wait Till Your Father Comes Home, and it aired from 1972 to 1974. Think about how many cartoons there are now that are not aimed at children. There's a lot. Like, a lot. And some are more disturbing than others. That brings us full circle back to the late 90s. The Simpsons was not only a financial success, but also a cultural smash hit, and we all knew there'd be no end in sight for its superb writing, relatable middle-class atmosphere, and perfectly timed and delivered sitcom-y jokes. We were confident its quality would last forever. Seriously though, if you want to watch someone take a deep dive into the classic Simpsons era and beyond, please go check out The Real Jim's YouTube channel. He has been extensively detailing The Simpsons season by season, from the classic era and beyond. His positive nature and willingness to always find a silver lining in some of the seasons that maybe don't live up to the classic era is infectious. His perspective has made me rewatch some of the middle seasons and find humor and joy in them. In a way, he also inspired me to start this channel. His style, the way he delivers his content, and how well written and researched his videos are made me want to do something similar but with King of the Hill. I also had the chance to exchange some messages with him on Twitter, and I'm happy to report he's as nice through messages as he seems he would be through his voiceover work. I guess you can say he answered the age-old question, can you judge if someone is actually nice based off of how their voice sounds? Yes you can. And the answer is yes you can. Anyway, his channel is awesome. We have his blessing for this channel, and for that, we're grateful. If you haven't already, go watch his content and give him a like and subscribe and ring the bell, or whatever it is that we're supposed to say. Being that The Simpsons were such a phenomenon, it gave network executives the green light to start giving shows to talented animators and creative types. By the time Fox was interested in expanding its Sunday evening slate of cartoons, which is now seemingly a permanent fixture, Mike Judge was a known quantity with his success from Beavis and Butthead. The story goes that while Fox was interested in the pitch that Judge made, they were not sold on the public masses being interested in a realistic family sitcom set in the American South. They paired Judge with Greg Daniels, a seasoned writer who was coming off of a lot of success with the aforementioned Simpsons. Side note, when Judge first pitched the show, he did it in a way that was super unique. He animated a white and black short of Hank talking to the camera, inviting Fox to pick up the show to watch their adventures. It's not super funny necessarily, but it's kinda cool, and it's available to watch on YouTube, I think. Daniels reworked the pilot script and introduced some new characters that were not originally planned by Judge. Daniels became so involved in the show that Judge made him a creator, and not just a developer or writer. In this way, Daniels is really akin to Sam Simon of The Simpsons. I'm doing no research here, but I think the story goes that Simon had such an impact that Matt Groening still gave him credit on new episodes, even though at the time of his incredibly unfortunate passing, he hadn't worked on the show in years. It's cool to know how much of a role Daniels had in shaping King of the Hill. I can't imagine the show without his contributions. Honestly, who would foil Hank in the early episodes if it weren't for the tornado of Luann ripping through his den? And what would King of the Hill be without Cotton? So many pivotal moments on the show come down to Cotton. One of my favorite episodes in the series is Cotton coaching Peggy back to shape after her parachute fail. There's a lot of great character moments that couldn't have been realized without Greg Daniels. So now here we are. We are established that Fox ordered a pilot and 12-episode Season 1 from Judge and Daniels circa 1996. What does that mean for us here in 2023? It means that I have a lot of love for this show, and after watching other creators that I admire on this platform go in depth on other sources of media that I really love, I thought, why not me? I know how to read, write, and speak, which I think is a pretty good place to start. Are people going to watch this channel? I don't know. Do people care to hear a 30-something guy talk about, sometimes at length, a show that hasn't aired new episodes in over 10 years? Not sure. I think there's still interest in the show, obviously, with the news of a revival coming to Hulu. So at least I've got that working for me. What can you expect from me in the future? Well, I'm going to start by rewatching the series from the onset. I think the first order of business is looking at how the series evolves over the span of years. After all, the world was an entirely different place in 2009 when the show went off air, as opposed to in 1996 when the show first started. It'll be interesting to examine the series at a larger scale, not only by watching character growth and following storylines, but also by comparing plot lines to what was happening in the world around the time that they were airing new. So not only do I want to take a deeper look at the stories in general, but also examine any questions that come about during the rewatches. I'm curious to discover and examine any inconsistencies that arise during the show. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's gotta be some, right? Every show has them. I think another interesting angle to examine is character relationships. How does Cotton feel about Luann, for example? What about that weird episode where Joseph and Connie kind of have a thing, even though up to that point they had a mild disdain for each other? And how about viewers? If anyone ever decides to watch this channel, I'd love to hear your feedback. On the surface, King of the Hill is a pretty basic show. It's an animated sitcom about a family's goings-ons in Texas. But the fabric of the hills, Arlen, and all of the other gang was woven so thickly over the course of the show due to creators and writers who wanted to tell compelling stories that there is a lot to examine. How about Nancy and Dale? Nancy and John Redcorn? John Redcorn and Joseph? What about exploring why Bobby tends to gravitate towards comedians and making people laugh? It seems innocent enough, but I wonder if there's something more to it than the surface. So I think the next you'll be hearing from me might be a Season 1 recap. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to fire up Sweet Lady Propane, grill up some cow, and kick back to revisit our favorite family out of Arlen, Texas. Season 1, here we come.